Ready?
Yep.
And we are live. Hello, LinkedIn. Dave Wilson, the Bring Your Hire Show. Hey, got a great show tonight with you, and we got Matt back in the house. How you been, Matt?
Good, Dave. Good to see you. I'm excited to do this show.
I think it's only been, about 4 months?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Only 4 months now. It's going to be a great topic tonight, everybody. The toxic work environment. So we'll be right back after this video. That thing still gets me. I just love watching it, man.
I do too, man. I still love that intro.
Especially for a recruiter, because it hits every pain point, hits everything that we've ever talked about on the shows. That I believe, every single thing in there, and I'm like, damn. But how's everything been going, sir? How's the new year going? And
pretty good, man. New Year's been going good. I can't believe it's we're turning on May next week. So that's exciting. Can't believe we're already in the 5th month of the year. But yeah, right? Everything's good, man. How have you been?
Good. Like I said, I had the total knee replacement, man. I was out January 18th. I got it. So right after the holidays, man, I've been out of it for 3 months. It feels good to be back. Listen, the technology cut it out and put a new one in, titanium. So, get around pretty good. It hurts still a little bit. We got physical therapy, but you know what? I love going to it because it hurts, but I know afterwards it feels better.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be back and start doing the show. And I'm trying to, hopefully somebody will comment tonight. Kenny, if you're out there, right? I texted him. I said, Kenny, please comment to see if it works. But sometimes we've been having problems with people when they try to comment. It doesn't come up. And I know sometimes on the show I've seen you afterwards. I'll go over here. I'll be like, hey, he talked. I didn't even see it.
Yeah, it happened a few times. I don't know what they changed with the StreamYard that it doesn't come up from your phone, but it seems like if I was on a PC it would work, but for some reason when I'm just sitting on my couch on my phone putting comments, listening to a show, wouldn't post till afterwards. Yes. But I could see everybody else's comments and talk with them. So
yeah,
hopefully we get some good people on today.
Yeah, I have the other laptop on right now. I'm looking back and forth between a new webcam that, hey, everybody, watch, I'm going to move. Now it's watch. It doesn't even move. Hold on. Now, see, now it won't move. It's supposed to go with me. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But tonight's topic, Mag, we've never touched this one, and I love it, is what is a toxic work environment? What is that? If I was to ask you, Matt, what's a toxic work environment in your terms? What comes to your mind?
Man, I could go on a tangent, but basically, to me, a toxic work environment is a work environment you don't want to be in, and it's generally, it can be caused by the people that are there, conditions, just not a positive work environment, not conducive of good results. Generally, come with toxic work environments. Just a lot of negative stress. And
I think of all the shows that we've done, and even that I've done, and you've talked a lot about it too, is it's everything. It's from your micromanagers. It's from other employees' issues. It's the culture. It's just everything in one. What I've noticed when you look up what is a toxic work environment, it's everything. It's the whole. It's every single thing in staffing, all in one.
I mean. Yeah, and it's tough because I've seen both sides of it as an internal employee in a toxic workplace, and I've worked with, unfortunately, clients that have had toxic workplaces, and it's never a good thing. It's bad for employer morale. It's bad for retention, and at the end of the day, it's going to hurt, whoever your end consumer is, because you're not going to keep people around. You're not going to keep people happy, and when people are happy and stay around is when you get the best production out of them.
It is. It is. Hey, Mike. Hey, Matt. We got my brother on tonight. He's in Florida.
Oh,
So,
nice.
hey,
I've
there's
heard a
Mike.
lot about him.
Yep, he's on Facebook. He's over on there. So welcome, Mike. I haven't seen Mike in 3 months. So besides we do phone videos, but
Okay. Is he in Florida
when I
still,
look at
or?
when I look at the meaning of what it says, a toxic works environment is having all the challenges on repeat without a break. It's red flags on top of red flags, passive aggressive bosses, inappropriate comments from your coworkers about the person even you replace. It's reduced, non-existent boundaries. It goes on, psychological safety, any feeling of security that you don't have. Often leaves employees feeling scared to speak up. It just goes on and on and on about every subject.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good thing, and it's definitely, like it said, it's a cycle, and it takes a lot to break that cycle. Sometimes, it's one of those old adages, like, don't let one bad apple ruin a bunch, but that can very, very easily happen with having a bad employee and a manager not handling it. And
That's the thing you said right there. I was coming right to I was going to ask you that is when you bring that one person, how one person in the office, just one, can ruin the whole meeting. When you're having a meeting, it just can bring people down, bring them right down.
yeah, absolutely.
And you got one, and then like you said, if the employer, the manager, the boss doesn't say anything, doesn't confront it, that's just another issue on top of another issue right there. It just doesn't stop there.
No, and it can be just such a vicious cycle, and it can be very hard to break. I've worked with companies where literally my first day in a new location was off-site at a hotel, just dealing with the issues of the toxic problems of this restaurant
Right.
in a hotel, in a in an empty room conference hall setting, because that's how bad it was. And it was like, hey, we're bringing in people from corporate because this has gotten to the point that it's out of control like a wildfire.
It's got to be an HR nightmare.
Yeah.
I believe
And
so. I mean,
I did not know I was walking into that when I went to that restaurant, but that was my literally day one. And I'd been with the company for a little while, but like at this new location.
They talk about here, it says one of the things is lack of trust. So when colleagues don't trust each other, or there's a pervasive sense of suspicion, it's a sign of toxicity. Trust is essential in a healthy work environment. And when you say that, trust, what's trust? What does that mean? What does it mean that if I don't trust you or you don't trust me? I think that's when if you have people problems, I would say employee problems, to me, is a real toxic. I mean,
Yeah.
you have your bad managers and all that, but if it's the people that you're around every day that come in, that person comes in late all the time, that person's always telling you doesn't like this place, talking bad about the bosses, talking about the people that's not in for the day. That's stuff like that. I just feel like, to me anymore, I just like try to put a stop to it. Listen, I don't want to talk about that. I don't like talking about coworkers without them being there or something. It's just not right.
Yeah, that, and just addressing it honestly, not letting it go. One of the worst things that you could say is just like, that's just how it is. Well, it shouldn't be that way.
But what do you think that, when you say that, you're right, because it gets overlooked over and over and nobody does anything. But why do you think a manager doesn't want to confront it?
Honestly, I think confrontation is hard. And I think some people would rather be complacent. Plus, even on a manager level, you can get yourself in trouble, because if you're dealing with a toxic employee, don't think they haven't said something about you that's negative. And I'm sure you probably heard it as a manager and then chose to ignore it because it's like, hey, do I want to deal with this confrontation right now? And unfortunately, I know we've talked about bad managers before. A lot of them would rather just, hey, just let's keep things status quo all day instead of be great.
Be great. Mike says, we have one guy at work that everyone has issues with, but the production manager doesn't do nothing about it and affects the workforce. He's right. That's what we were just saying right there.
Yep.
That's where I think if you've been a manager and if you're in that role, I really think the leadership, you really got to just talk to somebody about maybe that supervisor or that manager doesn't know how to address it because it's tricky. You just don't want to pull somebody in or you have an attitude.
Yeah.
You can't just do that. You gotta know how to word it and talk to your HR or talk to another manager how to confront that issue.
There's actually exercises you can do, and you can find most of them free online, like a facts over feelings type of thing.
Right.
And you can just, plain as day, hey, when you did this, it had this effect, and not, I think, just leaving certain words out. I think you doing this is not good, but just do straight fact based things and, have examples, have a witness, because toxic people, man, they're just gonna twist things, turn things, make themselves sometimes look like the victim, in a situation when they're the ones that are 100% guilty of it.
And what I like is if that manager confronts it, boy, does it really help the workforce.
Yeah.
It really changes the team environment. And listen, I mean, everybody can name people. I mean, in other companies I've been one, and there was one that, if I had to say, was a toxic work environment, and it was a verbal abuse also. That was a big thing because verbally you can be abused, and that's right there. I mean, it affects everything. It affects your family, affects your friends, your children, everything. Because if you're stressed out over that place, you're taking it home. I'm sorry, everybody takes it home.
No, that's definitely true. And, and not just taking it home, just not being positive, and happy about what you're doing every day. You can work for a huge corporation, and I've seen it with companies where, you have three different teams. Team A and B are awesome, and the cohesiveness is great.
Right.
And then Team C just seems to keep rolling through people. And why? It's the same company. It should have the same culture, but generally it's, one or two bad, actors there that make it that way. And, sometimes with things too, it's like, you'll have a club of people because it's like, hey, we've all worked together. We're not the problem. That new person is. And it's like, well,
Right.
How come it's every single new person that comes here? And then what it is, it might be one or two of a group that, manipulate the other ones, and they just are scared to say anything.
The same thing. I think that's you nailed it right there. Is how do there's a lot of things online where you can, like you said, you can figure out how do you work within a toxic work environment, because it shouldn't be your problem. First of all, I always say, listen, you got to find someone to talk to. If it's really bothering you, don't keep holding it in there. You've got to talk to somebody. If you really want to try to change your environment, it's really up to you. And I don't like to say confront people. There's always ways that you can have somebody stop, by saying something very professionally. That usually works sometimes. I've had enough, stop. But if you don't, that's what your leaders are there for. That's what the supervisors are there for. If the managers, the HR, they have to confront that with it. Now, when you look on reviews, I was looking at some reviews, and we've talked about it before. A review, listen, majority of people only put the negative things anyway.
Yeah.
But I always say, if you look at it, it can bring in red flags. It can bring in, if you could see what that reason is by those employees, and also depends on the field, but you can see maybe there is something that you can look at to see, all right, guys, do we have a toxic work environment? What is our work environment like?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And, when it comes to, I think with some, going back to dealing with one or two bad actors,
Right.
sometimes it only takes getting rid of one of them
Yeah.
to make an example and be like, hey, yeah. And then it also will show like the team in general, like, hey, they're trying to do something different.
Yeah.
Especially when you get some tenured employees and they're like, we just do things the way we do things. And it's like, no.
No. No.
Do we still talk on phones that are attached to a wall? I don't. I have a
Right.
cell phone. Things change, things evolve.
Yep.
Just because something was done one way in the past doesn't mean it needs to stay that way, forever.
Yeah, because they're even talking about things like it's not just it's social media. When you have the social media, people in the workplace are on social media throughout the day. I try to stay away from it because I don't think if everybody's putting comments, if somebody's commenting something about your own company, they're going to see that.
Yeah.
You gotta be really careful. I would never go on my LinkedIn or even any kind of a page and down my company that I work for. Why would you do that? That's just to me, that's just not the right thing to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, especially with the company, that's most companies these days have a social media policy that says, hey, you did that, have a great day. And here are your
Sure.
walking papers.
That's
But
it.
even making comments about other people on there and in this day and age, it's like you're attacking somebody's credibility online because of something at work instead of generally, again, going and having a hard conversation. So many people I think just want to be confrontational online and not necessarily be
No, I know
confrontational, but
in person, in person
communicate.
versus texting and when you're sending texts about coworkers, even stuff like that. I mean, everything adds up to make that toxic work environment. What it can be so many different things that when I was on here looking, I was like, oh my God, even companies that they were saying in here, the one that doesn't promote within, like say training, doesn't care. If a company doesn't care about you and they're not providing growth, anything like that could be part of a toxic work environment. I don't see how a healthy work environment, I think it means something different. But when I was going through this, like this one here, contemptuous behavior, if people treat each other with disrespect, contempt, or hostility, it's a red flag. So how do you monitor that? How do you find out if you have it? Like if you had a chance of going into your employees, your team, is it something that you want to put maybe a box out with comments? The old school stuff. You could put in there, what is something that you want to change in the office? A lot of people
That's
say it loud, but they'll send you an email.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I think people also will be not necessarily forthcoming
Right.
through a box, or maybe it could be misconstrued. I think a lot of things can be done by conversations. And one thing and it doesn't always work, but I've tried it more recently, is not necessarily with toxic work environment, just anything in general. When somebody's like rude to me, I'm just like, I'm sorry, can you just repeat that? Because I don't understand why you're talking to me this way. Uh, I've had clients like pointing their finger at me and hollering at me, and I was like, sir, put your finger down. If you need to repeat what you said, please do it again, but think about how you're talking to me, because this is very
Right.
disrespectful. And this particular client had two people walk off the job within a week, and both of them said kind of the same thing, that they were being treated very disrespectfully. Now you're talking to me this way, and I know some people think I have a baby face. So, I'm 43 years old. Like you're not going to talk to me that way.
Right. Oh, that's funny. No, but I get it. I can't. If somebody, God, it's so hard in the workplace because you need to be professional, but at the same time, yeah, I know what you're saying. I think you have to have something good about yourself. You know what I mean? Like pride. You don't need to talk to me like that. And if the way you said it, if somebody was pointing their finger at me, I've never had that at workplace. I don't know what I do. If I seem
Dave,
like
you
this,
can't see me through a screen. I'm 6'5". I'm not a small guy. and yeah, I was almost taken back when it actually happened.
right?
And and then And the reason I went out to visit this person was because to try and get to the bottom of it.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, well, this is where I see where the issue's coming from. It's the way you treat people.
Right. I think
And
they should probably do some training in that, But in all seriousness, this would be a good training. I'm sure companies do it too. A lot of this, is in your company book. It's in there, covered and all that stuff, because nobody should have to go through. And I always say, listen, if you're going through, somebody's negative comments, if you find out they're saying negative comments about you, that's where it needs to be addressed. I'm sorry. They call it gaslighting. It says, I'm like, okay, I get it, but you got to say something. You got to speak up, or else you're gonna fall. You shouldn't have to leave that workplace. You shouldn't have to go. Because you say, well, Matt, I'm sorry, but everybody's been saying things about me behind my back, and personal things at home. That too. And then one of the things they were talking about is even politics. People don't like politics in the workplace, and that can be a toxic workplace. I don't talk about politics at work. I do not talk about it at all, as much as you want to.
We don't even talk about it on the show, Dave.
No, you don't, because you just learn. There's some things, I think this comes into being a professional. Some things you just don't go. You don't go there.
I totally agree. And, kind of going back to the training thing, I think a lot of times in this day and age with places being short-staffed and
right.
all the issues with staffing and just the quality of candidates, that we live in a world that is so, what's in it for me right now, that a lot of companies, because they're behind the 8 ball on things, are not properly training. And I think a good training program will kind of alleviate that toxic workplace, because, you have to, in my eyes, when you train, you have to be with somebody, to show you how to do things. That person should be somebody that cares about the company, is not talking bad about other people, is there for you when you need something without getting upset about it. And you just kind of, they want to see the company succeed, and they want to succeed by you succeeding. And it's more of a culture thing when you build it up and train and take that time to properly train people. I think that might have a lot to do with it in some cases.
Yeah, and I think a lot of good team building exercises, anything for your team that you can build, they have a lot of these things. You ever see one of those things? I always see it. I've never tried it. Did you ever go to that place where they throw those friggin' axes?
Yeah, I've done that for a team building thing. Yeah.
So what do they do? You just go in there? What do? You get stressed out and you freaking throw an axe against you? Do they tell you that it's a person's name or something like that?
Now there's a little bit more strategy than just getting angry and throwing it, because you have to hit it where the 3.5-inch blade is the part that hits the wood, and not the handle or the head of it or anything like that.
What do you like, points?
Yeah, it's like it's like a giant dartboard, and there's different rings and stuff like that. That's pretty fun. I'm a big fan of going to like Top Golf or one of those types of places for team building.
Yeah, I think that would help. Listen, I mean, whether you have a person that's always angry, everybody knows somebody that's always angry. Everybody knows somebody that's always happy on life. You know what I mean? Everybody has different personalities, and I think as a leader, that's your chance really to be a dynamic way to just build the team around each person, because some people don't like. Let's just say you got a negative person, and when I was in the paper industry, when it was union, you had that negative person, but you couldn't get rid of them, right? But they were good workers. They were really a good worker. So when I got out of the union, I was thinking, wow, now I'm a new manager. Wow, you can just let anybody go that you want. No, you can't do that. You couldn't do that, because that person that was complaining all the time always had really good reasons. When you wanted to change something, a policy, that person would always give you those negative feedback. But if you paid attention to the person, some of the stuff was true.
Well, yeah, and two things I want to hit on real quick that you said. One, activities. Yeah. One of the coolest things I've ever done with a company, and we didn't do it that often, but like sometimes middle of the week on a Wednesday, 3:00, hey, phones down, cell phones out of your pocket. We're going to walk down the block. It's a beautiful day out, and then we're going to come back, grab a coffee or water, chill out for 5 minutes, and then we're going to go back to work. And, you would think taking that, 20 minutes to a half hour break would have been detrimental, but in all reality, it generally made production better at the end of the day because we wanted to do things. And the second thing I was going to hit on was, and you were talking about like the paper with the union and stuff. I loved people when I was a manager that would complain about things, legitimate things. But the way I got most out of a lot of them is I'd be like, hey, you obviously can point out a problem. Tell me how to fix it. Tell me how to fix it.
Solutions.
And if it's feasible, let's do it. If it's kind of feasible, let's try it.
Right.
And it's like, because anybody can point out the grass and say, hey, this grass is brown. Okay. Why is it brown? I'm not sure.
Right.
Let's try watering it. All right. Water works a little bit. All right. So maybe some fertilizer. Okay. Here we go. Some fertilizer. Maybe add some more seed to it. It's like there's a lot of different things that you can do in order to fix a problem if you look at it different ways, but also don't just go to somebody with a problem all the time. Go to somebody with a problem with an idea of how to fix it.
How to fix it. And they talk about that too, about, instead of pointing fingers, finding solutions. Finding a solution. What is the solution? What can we do? And if you be honest with people, I think, and it talks about communication as one of the most important things too. Communication. You gotta communicate with your team, each person, because that if that other person's not doing it, then it's the same thing. You take somebody out, like, all right, Dave's not saying nothing. You know what I mean? All right, he's saying too much. And yet you got all different types of people. And you just have to learn. You got to learn how to get them all together. I mean, like I said, I love the idea, like the team thing, getting out, go, come back. You got to try something.
And sometimes too, like you said, the axe throwing. Sometimes too, getting somebody outside of work, you might be able to even let their guard down a little bit and find out the way they are. If I work for a company for 3 months and I don't know, Jimmy's backstory, and Jimmy got passed up for promotion 2 years in a row, and he's done all the things that he needed to do on his end, but they brought somebody in from the outside, and he's kind of bitter about it. I might understand Jimmy a little bit better than just Jimmy being a jerk to me.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't know things about people. You don't.
Yeah.
You might find out something that's going on in their lives. And they're the kind of things that building that trust. You don't have to tell your coworkers about everything, but then when somebody finds something out about you that you might be having a problem, well, why didn't you say something? And some people say it as friends, but coworkers, we spend a lot of time together.
I was at a barbecue this weekend with my team in a pool party. I was talking to one of my partners, and I was like, yeah, me and him, our desks are right by each other. And I was like, I see you more than I see my family. And he's like, same thing. He's like, I see you more than most people.
It is. You see everybody over and over. And there are the things. But when it comes down to like bad leadership, that's where I think a lot of the training has to go into. You need to train the supervisors, you need to train the managers how to deal with people. That's the biggest thing, is how do you deal with people with issues, with problems. Let's face it, with cell phones today, everybody brings their personal life with them. You bring it every day.
There was an old joke.
Your husband texting you, got the kids texting you, got kids issue. So you're trying to do the work plus do everything at the same time. And that's the only thing about with cell phones, that it brings in a lot of issues as well.
There was a joke. I mean, I heard this years ago. At a grocery store, there was a girl crying at the register, and the manager was like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And she's like, "Well, my boyfriend just broke up with me through text." And he's like, "Well, if you had your phone put away, you wouldn't be upset right now, would you?"
But that's what I mean, though. So you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You always want to say back in the day, your age, when you didn't have it. Those are the kind of things that people got going on in their lives, because some.
And Dave, guess what? We survived. No cell phones when we were kids. We still survived.
I know, right? You had one phone call, you had one phone that would come on, you know. Let's see. Toxic word might have clicks, exclusion, gossipy behavior. We talked about that. Constant feeling of exclusion from a group of people. That I believe can, you know, if you got your team and if you isolate one person, that right there is what really hurts that person, you know, because they're not part of the team. Now you're just going around everybody. I just say, so, you know, we work together. You got to get along. You got to figure out a way. All right, Matt, I don't like Matt, but you know what? I'm 8 hours with you, Matt. We got to figure out how to get along, me and you know, because what else? If we, it's going to tear you up inside. You're not going to enjoy coming to work because I don't like Matt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's got to be a way that you got to work together.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, you'd be on edge. Like it could be a toxic, can be a two-way street. You could both be toxic for whatever reason, with whatever's going on in your life, or just you don't like each other for whatever reason. And it's like, okay, what's this one going to say today that's going to make me go off, or what am I going to say that they're going to take out of context? And it could be a very two-way street on that as well.
That's what I mean. I always say that's what I try to do. I try to get along with everybody. There's no, I can't stand it. Been there, done it. I always want to say been there, done it. Been in environments, the micromanagers, had bad managers, had bad bosses, had ones that don't confront an issue. And listen, I evolved through all that when I was younger as a manager growing up. I learned a lot by making the mistakes. You know, I really did. I mean, I didn't realize how your words really can hurt someone. And you might not realize it when you're saying it, but you really need to look like when you see people's faces in a meeting, you know what I mean? In a meeting, something negative has got to come out. You need to really just communicate it well and say what it is. If there's a problem going on, you need to address it. If you don't, it just spirals and spirals and spirals.
No, I definitely made my fair share of mistakes, and
Yeah.
you know, a lot of times said things so that people liked me, you know, instead of, you know, confronting an issue, you know. And one of the things that I feel like I've learned the most in any management is, you know, you're not managing responsibilities, you're managing individuals. And the way that you get one person to be motivated is not the same way you get another. The way that you can coach one person is not the way you do another. I mean,
Right.
When you're managing somebody, you can have that relationship with one of the people and be like, hey man, you know better than that, don't do it again. And there's a clear understanding. Another person, you might say, hey, you did this, you're not supposed to do this. And you almost have to explain why to them, just because the only way for them to truly understand why they shouldn't do what you're telling them is to explain it to them like, hey, this is the consequences of it. Whereas other people, you could just be like, knock it off, you know better.
And that's it. Well, we'll talk about one more thing here. I want to, wow, 30 minutes gone by already. I told I
Really?
want to keep shows to like 30 minutes or something. I'm like, oh my God, they got 33. The one thing I like to hit when we're here is when we first signed on, we talked about the turnover, how it affects turnover.
Yep.
That right there is probably one of the biggest right there that really has a high turnover. And you shouldn't have to leave, but you need to, if exit interviews are just like when we talk about the reviews, exit interviews, I don't really, I've never really done exit interviews. I don't think I want to say anything. It's just me, you know, but I guess that's the time to where, I mean, if the issues are coming out then at an exit interview and you're not doing something about it, you need to think about it. Why is that person leaving? You know, that person's got 10, Matt's got 10 years and he's leaving. Why? You know, why is Matt leaving after 10 years? There's got to be a reason why you're leaving. You know, is it a bad boss? Is it because of rumors around there? Is it because it's a toxic work environment? You know, they're not putting the training into me. I don't feel like I deserve anything. You know what I mean? Like everything could be negative or positive.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've done exit interviews.
I just never have.
I just, the two that I did, one was a total career change, and it really, you know, I was just over the restaurant business, and it didn't have necessarily anything to do with where I was at in my career.
Right.
I was very successful. It's just, it had more to do with the fact of with COVID. I couldn't get employees to come to work. The demand of what we were doing just became more and more. And, at my age, just, working 10 to 12 hours on your feet all day, I was like, nah, it's a young man's game. And then the other
hospitality, right? For many
yeah,
years.
25, from the time I was 15 till 40. Started washing dishes at 15 and worked my way up to management, and pretty much done every job in between. And when I got out of it, that's when I got into staffing. And then the other exit interview was kind of glazed over. My director knew the reason I was leaving, and it was, partially a toxic workplace, and I had another offer. And so when HR called, they kind of just like glazed over it, because they're like, well, we heard what, your director had to say. So we don't really need to hear a whole bunch of it. I said, okay, that's fine. Have a great day.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to just, if you want it, you can be honest, but you need to be honest. Really, you shouldn't have to leave a job for a toxic work environment. You shouldn't. If anybody out there, if you're feeling that way and you don't, it's not right that if they're treating you poorly, you need to address the situation, and you'll feel a lot better. I'm telling you, because any good boss, any good leader will listen to an employee that has problems, and they're going to try to help you to figure out a way to get around it. That's just me. I mean, if somebody's coming to me and they got some issues, you cannot turn a blank eye to it. You can't just, you got to confront it. And that's what I learned as I was younger, because I always didn't do that. We talked about that when we said that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you need to address it. The way things are nowadays, listen, you have a problem. That's what your management team is there for. And they should be the ones trained to help you and to get through it. Don't leave a job because of a bad boss. Confront the issue, because if you're going to leave anyway, what's the difference? If I have a problem with you're my boss, and listen, there's ways professionally that you can do that. It doesn't always have to be yelling, or, you know what I mean? You can really sit down with somebody and have that one-on-one. That one-on-one is a big thing when it comes to this.
Well, and a lot of times too, kind of going back to the exercise about facts or feelings,
right,
is also write down what you think, because we're human beings. We're emotion-driven creatures. If you write down what you think and why you think that, you're not going to let the emotion of somebody else talking and discrediting you take you off of what you have to say. So that's generally a good tactic of being like, hey, this is boom. These are the reasons why I feel like this is not the best work environment for me. And again, come to me with solutions. Hey, we can make it better, I think, by doing this.
Right. No, it is. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, there was a lot of stuff when you Google things, when you sit there and you think, oh my God, I have pages after pages. And a lot of it, communication, trigger words, manipulators. That's a good word. I like that, manipulators. That's a good person that knows how to manipulate everybody. Everybody knows one. Everybody knows how to do that, But I enjoyed being on tonight, man. This subject can go on and on.
It's so funny. I wrote a quote down today that I saw from Gary Vee.
Right.
I'm going to hack it right now, but I wrote it down and I left it on my desk at work. And it was it wasn't necessarily a toxic workplace, but it was something along the lines of leaders should inspire you. You shouldn't be afraid of your leaders.
Right.
And I was like, man, that's so true. And having like a toxic workplace doesn't help that. But
I know he talks a lot about that. He nails it every freaking time, man.
Yeah, I love watching his stuff.
Yeah, he comes off, and I think when he's more natural, when he just flows, it just comes off his tongue. I've watched him a couple times do a couple of things, and I was like, damn, how does he articulate all that? How does he get that out like that and be real?
Yeah.
But I believe him. That's the way he does his company. I really do. I believe that's how he does and what he says about his company and what he does for the employees. And I believe that. I mean, I don't know. You just watch him. And there's the other one too. I like Tony Roberts. Tony Robbins, was it Robbins or Roberts? Roberts. He's been around for a long time. He's on LinkedIn. He's on Facebook, all over the place.
Yeah.
He's been on. So, well, sir, I want to thank you for a show tonight. It's good to be back. we'll
I
hit some
appreciate you having me, sir.
Yeah, we'll figure out some new things coming up, everybody. And like I said, if anybody has any ideas out there, what kind of show topics, please. At least we got one person tonight. I said one. And
It's weird. I think we're still not getting the messages like we used to.
No, and then I'm looking over there. Somebody told me that if you look up top, you can see the amount of number of people watching. There's an eye. Now, Richard, I don't see no eye.
You see it when you're watching it on LinkedIn. Like if I'm watching your show and I'm not on it, when I actually see it, it'll tell me how many people are watching it live.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's when you're watching it.
That's when I'm watching it, like through the LinkedIn website, not actually on StreamYard. Because I never know how many people are watching right now. Millions and millions, I assume.
Yeah, right. Millions. There we go. All right, sir. I'll talk to you right after this. Everybody have a good night. Take care, Matt.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Talk to you right after this.